Nigeria, a member society of the CFA Institute Global Network of Societies. Our mission is to promote the highest standard of practice in the Nigerian financial services industry and provide a vibrant community for our members. The CFA Charter signals the holders' commitment to professional excellence. As thought leaders, we collaborate with stakeholders to ensure adherence to ethical standards, better education for professionals, and to build market integrity. We are the leading voice for advocacy in the finance and investment industry in Nigeria. To partner with us or become our member, visit us at cfasocietynG.org for more details. CFA Society Nigeria, making finance a force for good.
New Frontiers Learning is the #1 tuition center for the CFA exams in Nigeria. Our founders went through their CFA journey with little or no support of any kind. However, they vowed to turn into reality the dream of every CFA candidate earning the CFA charter, irrespective of their backgrounds, finance and non-finance alike. It is this commitment to support our candidates that influences our engagement of a world-class faculty, partnerships, scholarship and discount offers, our online learning management system, and so much more. Our clients' outstanding results across all levels of the exams every year attest to the quality of our top-notch physical and online program in the last 10 years. That's right, we have been impacting the industry for 10 years and have supported about 2,500 professionals in that time space. Register with New Frontiers Learning today.
Hello, are you looking for a CFA preparatory school? A tuition to help with your pursuit of the highly prestigious CFA charter? If yes, then First Quartile Professionals is perfect for you. You can join us from any part of the world. We offer online and physical classes. Our pass rate have been higher than the global pass rate in all but one of the last 18 run of classes we have had over the years. At First Quartile, we also adopt a mentoring system to guide candidates through their journey to earn the CFA charter. At First Quartile you get a chance to network with many industry experts. Visit our website or call 0817-607-4526 for further inquiries.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you for showing up. Good morning. Good morning. My name is Bukola Ilori from the CFA Society Nigeria, and we welcome our Level 2 candidates to the revision bootcamp organized by the membership committee. Please, in the chat box, kindly state where you are joining us from, your location. We'll be happy to know where you're joining us from. And while you're doing that, let me quickly run through our timetable for this meeting. We have 2 courses today that will be taken. The first one will be Ethical and Professional Standard, taken from 10 to 11 by Miriam, our facilitator. She's already in the room with us. And by 11, we'll be having Alternative Investment, which will be from 11 to 12. So those 2 will be our courses for today. And we'll continue tomorrow at 12 p.m. We want everybody to be able to have time to join us tomorrow. We'll start with quantitative methods. That will be from 12 to 2 p.m. Then derivatives will take place by 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. tomorrow. So those are the 4 courses we'll be having. Thank you very much. I can see where you're calling from, where you've joined us from Port Harcourt. Alfred from Port Harcourt, thank you. You're welcome. From Kuwait, that's nice. From Singapore, thank you so much for joining us. Chima from Abuja, we appreciate you. Tommy, we appreciate you from Singapore. From Sokoto, Mary, thank you so much for joining us. Right now, I leave you in the able hands of Miriam, our facilitator. I assure you would enjoy our class. We enjoyed it last week and we're going to enjoy it today again. Do have a nice day. We'll see you at the other hand. Take care.
Okay, thank you, Bukola, for handing me over. Hello, everybody. Good morning. I am Miriam, as she said, and it's great to see we have a global audience like Singapore. It's good, yeah, and I love our locals as well. Sokoto, Lagos, Abuja. Thank you all for joining, and welcome to Level 2 Ethics. That's what I'll be taking you through today. I'm just trying to sort out the orientation in my screen before I start with you guys. So you can still keep throwing in where you're joining in from. It's always nice to know who's here with us. So we're going to be taking ethics for the next hour. So as you're all aware, the CFA Level 2 ethics, and you're familiar with it now coming from Level 1, has only 3 LMs in Level 2 compared to Level 1, which introduced you to GIPS a bit, depending on when you did your Level 1 actually. And I'm assuming most of the people on this session are taking their exams soon. So I'm making this more of an interactive session. We're gonna briefly go through the code and standards, because that's basically what Level 2 is all about in ethics. But I want to focus, the heart of our whole session will be doing question practice together. I'll give you some time. I have my phone here to put on a timer, and then we'll discuss it first, and then we'll go through the answers. These questions are all coming from the CFA text. I have focused mainly on LM2 because you know what, LM1 basically has just an intro of what ethics is, which we all have a background of that by now at Level 2. This is just a slide explaining our breakdown of the session. I'm trying to be time conscious. Time goes really fast with these things. So I will try my very best to do as many questions as we can. And I hope we get time for you guys to ask me any questions you have. If not, you will be able to reach me through social media. I'm on LinkedIn or any other form through the society if you have any questions. So let's just get through a quick overview about ethics. I mean, just to remind you guys, yes, you know that ethics is through all the 3 levels. From Level 1 to Level 3, ethics is important to you, and it's easily transferable because the meat of it is those code and standards. And I think you're all aware by now that borderline ethics clause that the Board of Governors instituted a policy whereby if you're borderline, as you can see the statement, I will not be reading from my slides. If you've ever done my session, you know that I don't read from my slides, but they're always available for you guys to read afterwards. So this is just to give you an overview. If you're at that minimum borderline, ethics can make it for you or break it. So it's really important to keep it, it is important. I know most people think it's very tedious and boring because the text is dense in the CFA. I did not enjoy it myself when I was reading for it. But it's worth making the time. And most of the times ethics is fresh in our minds because we leave it towards the end. So this should be a session that you guys will easily recall and be able to answer things. And just moving on swiftly now, if we go into LM1, LM1 is basically what ethics is in Level 2. It's the code of ethics and the standards. They're focusing on making sure you understand the code of ethics. They want to make sure you know how to apply these standards. They are talking about, you know, the codes has 6 codes. We are all aware of them. Yes, I'm going to skip this slide because I've already spoken about ethics in there. So we're going to go on to this one, which is talking about the 6 codes. So for me, I mean, when I was reading, as I've said before, in my session last week, anyway, with Level 1s, but focus more on understanding, but I do understand we all learn differently. So if you're somebody that understands better by memorizing and it makes it easier for you, I mean, at this stage, maybe if you didn't at Level 1, or if you like acronyms, I have an economic here, you see MAPUP, it's not in order, but if it helps you remember the actual codes. The good thing with the CFA exam, you guys are all aware, it doesn't really want you to memorize. They're focusing on understanding, but if memorizes aids your reading and learning, do so. So the code of ethics is just making sure, you know, we act with integrity, competence, diligence. The words used by the CFA, there's these keywords: integrity, diligence, practice, reasonable care. They're very intentional with these words. So pay attention to these words and they will make it easy for you to actually pick out. If this acronym helps, use it. If you have your own, whatever works for you, you should know by now at Level 2, stick by it. Be open to trying different strategies. Right now, close to your exam, I wouldn't say try so many new things, but if you already know these and you have a way around it and it worked for you in Level 1, carry on in Level 2 and 3. So these are basically our 6 codes. You should be aware of them. The questions will be coming from these codes, and then we move on to the standards. We all know we have 7 standards, but we have 22 subsections. These 22 subsections are a must know. They're really important to know them in the details because they can catch you out with questions whereby they're not referring to an actual standard, but they could be referring to a subsection. And they expect you to know how to apply that subsection and what it means. So we would start, the first standard has 4 subsections: professionalism, which is the first standard for intentional reason. Again, like the CFA is really well structured, I must say, that it is very intentional. You need to be professional in any kind of practice, it could be in the medical, engineering, there's always a professionalism that is important for all professionals to hold. So the professionalism is key because you need to know these things before you move on. And then the second standard is integrity of capital markets, as most of us are analysts, portfolio managers, or working with companies that deal with the market. So this is, the second standard has only 2 subsections, but the first subsection of the second standard, the material non-public information, is one that I think I remember the CFA loves choosing questions that refers to that subsection, because material non-public information is a violation. Using that information is a violation of the standards, but using material public information is absolutely fine. So it goes to that mosaic theory that we're all aware of, or should be aware of. So do pay attention to the subsections, like especially this one. I remember, it caught me out a few times, so I hope it doesn't catch you guys out. If we move on quickly, duties to clients. Duties to clients, standard 3. For me, in my opinion, probably the most important reason why these standards exist, because the CFA charter holder has clients. They can be individuals, corporations, governments, non-government organizations. We exist for our clients. Generally, organizations, multinational, you exist for who you're serving, regardless. The government exists for serving its citizens. So as you can see, the subsections in this standards is probably the most in all the subsections. There's 5 subsections with duties to clients. So the CFA always says, client comes first, then your employer. Like, there is an order, so it's intentional. So pay attention to what you need to do, your duties to your clients. And I think they do focus, I think some of the questions I see from practice mocks, maybe by providers, they do have a lot that focus on this. So understand this. And then we have duties to employers, standard 4. There's 3 subsections within it. Understand how you're supposed to, prioritize your employer before yourself, but your client comes before your employer. Remember that. And anything that you're doing outside of your work, you need to inform your employer. And then responsibilities for a supervisor, whereby if you delegate, doesn't mean you are still responsible for that person. It doesn't mean you just delegate absolute power and responsibility. If we swiftly move on to standard 5, investment analysis, recommendation, and action. Really important as well, because this probably interlinks, I would say, if I'm doing this in my own opinion, after duties to clients, this is very important, because for you to fulfill those duties to your clients, you need to make sure you follow and adhere to this standard 5, because you need to make sure you're reasonable and you're diligent, you're communicating well with your clients, you're retaining records, so everything is available for them to review and see where and why you're doing what you're doing. If we move on, standard number 6, conflicts of interest. Conflicts of interest is really important as well, because anything that is gray, when they say in CFA, when you're not too sure, it's best to disclose. So always disclose things, even if most of the questions will tell you likelihood, most likely, least likely. So pay attention to it. It doesn't have to be an absolute correct answer. So it's important, that you understand the subsections here as well, especially with referral fees. I used to get a bit caught out with questions like that myself. And then the final standards, which is standard 7, responsibilities as a CFA Institute member or CFA candidate. So I love this standard in that, as soon as you've registered and you've been given that right to claim a CFA candidacy, you are also responsible to follow these standards. And it's like, even if your employer doesn't, you are binded by them. So the CFA has a right to revoke your candidacy. They can decide, we don't want you in the program. You've done something that doesn't give you rights, or they can suspend you. So it is important right now, and not when you get the charter, as you're going through it, to make sure you get to the end of your program. It's important you really understand this, because you can't come to level 2 and then all of a sudden they're telling you, oh, we've revoked your right to actually get the CFA charter. So make sure you understand this for your own personal good as well, because you want to claim, you want those 3 letters at the end of your name So I have a mnemonic as well here. You see PICE icon R. It's intentional that I did it this way because I feel like the order of these standards used to help me. I don't know about you, to know I wrote this acronym in order. But if order doesn't matter for you and you know what number they are, not that CFA asks you, but for my own learning personally, again, it could be easy. Like if I just look at it now, I know I can make it price icon because the R can move into the pies, or I can make it rice, like anything. If it helps you with the acronyms, use it. If not, it's just here for your own reference. So I've been through the code and standard, the codes of ethics and the standards of professional conduct quickly because we've already gone into 20 minutes now of the session. So we have 40 minutes to go. I'm very time conscious because our questions is why we're here. I want you guys to practice. Assuming you have the exam, this should be the best part for you. So with guidance for standards, this module 2 is a must read. It's a must read. If you haven't read this, please make time, even if it's like 20 minutes little doses, like even if you're not gonna go through all the guidance for all the subsections, pick out a few, read them, understand it, because they give you a case study. Your exam level 2 is all about case studies and then answering questions. They give you a particular case study for each subsection and then they comment on it. You might be thinking they're just comments, but before going to the comments, think to yourself, you've been through the exam, you've done level 1. What question could come from this case study? Like this is when you know your learning has reached a higher level of confidence that you can create questions. When you run out of questions, question practice for ethics is really important. Come back to this LM2. LM2 is where our questions are coming from today. I'm using the cases and I've created questions myself that will support the comments that come afterwards. So LM2 is your friend. Use it if you have time, make time. If it's just small doses of it, it really helps. If you think about it, most of the questions that come in the exam are something that has already been taught in the CFA curriculum. And the CFA, I think even if you check the learning ecosystem, it's really helpful as well in that sense. So now, okay, we've spent 20 minutes and I think it's time for us to give this a try. I want everybody to give this an attempt. I'm gonna put on a timer on my phone now. I'm gonna give you guys 1 minute, 30 seconds to do this question because approximately that's what you get for the exam. We're not going to be doing case studies exactly, but we're going to do individual ones because I wasn't able to get an entire case study that covers all the standards that you're likely to get tested on. So get ready, set, let's go for it. Read this question carefully, take your time. You have 1 minute, 30 seconds. Throw in your answers in the chat and I'll give you a heads up when we're closer to time being up. So go for it. Thank you. Take your time. I mean, we do have, you have a minute now. Time goes really fast when you're doing this thing. So read it and give it an attempt. Tell me what you think the answer is. Read the case carefully. Make sure you know why you're choosing your answer and why the other answers are not correct. Elimination used to be my thing. It's easy to eliminate the wrong answer and then get to the right one. So you guys have about 30 seconds. I need you guys to attempt, even if it's a guess. There's no penalty. This boot camp is not here for you to be tested. I don't even know who is who. You guys have to keep track of how you're doing. So good, I'm happy, great. I'm getting some answers now, great. I've got A, I've got B, come on, you guys got like 20 seconds and we need to be time conscious about this. I've got A's and B's, nobody has chosen C yet, that's great, thank you guys. Just keep throwing them in. You have 10 seconds, just throw in a guess, whatever it is, no penalty, always learn by making a mistake. Great, okay, we have a C as well. Come on, people, there's quite more people in this. Okay, time is up. Time's up, and I really want everybody to take part in this because I have some answers, but I feel like there's more participants than the answers I've got. So you guys just throw it in. I'm giving you an extra 10 seconds. Just throw in an answer. Just read it. You have read the case by now. You should know where it is. Thank you for those that have participated. I really appreciate it. This is for you. This is going to benefit you. Getting it wrong here is okay. It's on the day you don't want to get it wrong. So get it all wrong here if you want. It doesn't matter. So just because of time, I'm gonna obviously stop there with checking the chat. Let's see. So I have all the options. I have A, B, C. So I'm gonna read the case again. So Michael Allen works for a brokerage firm and is responsible for underwriting of securities. A company official gives Allen information indicating that the financial statements Allen filed with the regulator overstate the issuer's earnings. Allen seeks the advice of the brokerage firm's general counsel, who states that it would be difficult for the regulator to prove that Allen has been involved in any wrongdoing. So our question was, did Allen violate any CFA standards? Did Allen violate any of the CFA standards? Let's see. So I have A, B, and C. So let's go in order. So those that said A, he did not violate any standards. By Allen, we're not told what Allen has done or not done, but we know what Allen should do with the CFA standards. If Allen actually just follows what the counsel has said, that it'll be difficult to prove. Like if he doesn't do anything after this advice, that's what with the questions, they're not always 100%, I did it intentionally. It's not 100% clear because they want you, there's no actual correct answer, but they want you to use logic and your own actual intuition to make sure what's right. So by Allen just listening to the general counsel and just thinking, okay, I'm fine because nobody can really prove that I did anything. Is Allen violating anything by just doing nothing? Likelihood he could, because with the standards that we've spoken about, those subsections says you should follow all the rules that are said in the subsections, and you should understand those subsections. So if the subsections do not say just because somebody has told you, you can't be proved that you were involved in wrongdoing, that you're okay, you haven't violated anything. If an investigation takes place and Allen did not do anything further after talking to this counsel, he would be found guilty, because just because somebody has told you, your counsel has told you that they can't prove it, doesn't mean like any likelihood of doubts that they might have that you've been a part of it, you violated something. So that's why A is not the correct answer, because if Allen was investigated after this particular case, he could be, not would be, we're not sure, maybe, like there's a gray area there. So no, A is not the correct answer, but well done for those that tried. If we move on to B, so B was the first standard we spoke about briefly, and it has subsections. And in professionalism, there is a subsection involved there that talks about what you should do when in doubt. Because in this situation, we have Allen that's not really too sure what to do. And if he does do nothing, like this case talks about, he could potentially violate one of the subsections in standard A, professionalism. So B would be the correct answer. If we move on to C, did we hear anything about Allen's clients? We don't even know if Allen has clients or what he's doing. It's very gray, like it's very obvious, not even gray here. It's blatantly clear. We don't know. We know he works for a brokerage firm, and we know possibly they could have clients, but we don't even know if his actions not doing anything or what client it is. So it doesn't really tell us too much about his clients. We don't know if it's just a new brokerage firm or the clients are not involved in this particular issues that they're talking about. So because there's too many unknowns. With B, there's like, okay, we know that he has to follow a certain order of things when he's working. We know that he's been given guidelines. But with clients, the subsections for clients is talking about loyalty. It doesn't talk anything about the loyalty, preservation of confidentiality. It doesn't involve anything. You think about the subsections. When standards are thrown at you, that's why you need to know the subsections. You need to think about, does this question relate to any subsection? If you can't find a subsection, that's a good way to know that this question, probably this particular case, has nothing to do with that standard. So C is not the correct answer. Our correct answer is B. So if I move on to the answer now, if we go to the answer, so the answer is B. And this explanation is coming directly from the CFA text. And as you can see, like, it's fine for him. We recommend that you seek legal counsel, but the reliance of that advice does not absolve a member or candidate from requirement to comply with the law or regulation. So even though the counsel says he's unlikely to be found guilty or part of the involved in this wrongdoing, doesn't mean that Alan is free of any potential violation. So for best practices based on the CFA standards is Alan should report this situation to his supervisor, who will seek an independent legal opinion, which he's already done, and determine whether the regulator should be notified or not. So that's why B is the correct answer. So quickly in the chat, I mean, I'm just giving you a few seconds here. If you can see the second attached question that I put. So what subsection within standard 1 professionalism does this question actually ask you? Do you know what subsection? Can we have some guesses? I'm just gonna give you guys a few seconds, just see. Let's see who knows what subsection. There's a reason why I haven't mentioned the subsection in the explanation. Well done, yes, I've got feedback, great, amazing. This is great, thank you for those that have thrown it in, yes. We have A, we have C, 1C, 2 Cs. Well done, you guys. I love this. Thank you. This is what I want. Okay, we have a B as well now. That's great. So we have a D. Okay, we have all the subsections. So let me just close my chat there. Let me see. Okay, so we have someone that chose D. I'm going to go by the ones that I think. Okay, we have D, B, C. Yes. Yeah, we have all of them. So let's go. I'm going to go in reverse order. So misconduct, you know what subsection? Misconduct is talking about anything that you do. Like misconduct is something like somebody goes out to lunch and drinks maybe a glass of wine and comes back and makes a decision for some investment. Like they could be classified that they're underneath the influence. That's misconduct, or intentionally does something that is just wrong. Like, I don't know, if they decide to go and just decide to go and make a decision without actually taking into account the laws of the firm's actual policies. Like they decide to make a decision without going through the actual hierarchy. So misconduct is a huge thing. Like misconduct is something that could actually get you fired from your job. So I don't know what Alan did. Is it really that huge by just listening to some legal counsel? It's not like he's done something that is intentionally putting him at risk of losing his employment. Not really. He's done something, if he decides to just listen to legal counsel, he's done something that is just maybe a lazy man's job, not bothering to follow all the policies, but it's not something that will cause him to be potentially fired from his job. It's something that probably they'll pull his ears and just correct him. Okay, you have to follow these policies. So it's unlikely. Misconduct would not be the answer. Misrepresentation, has he really misrepresented any information? It's not like there's a publication out there that Alan did and there was a mistake and the council tells him not to correct it. There's no actual misrepresentation. He's actually been, there's earnings reports. Let me go back to the case because let's go back to the case a second. So overstate. He's filed earnings with the regulator. I get why people would choose misrepresentation. Yes, Alan has filed earnings issued by the regulator, and it's indicating, yes, that's why I get why a company gives Alan information and statements. Alan filed with the regulator, overstating issuer's earnings. He's not really intentionally trying to misrepresent the earnings. He's not intentionally trying to overstate the issuer's earnings. It's not going to be misrepresentation because he hasn't really also decided what he's going to do. This case leaves us with a question mark. Like I said, it's a bit gray because we don't know. It could fall into that if he's already filed it and he has decided not to do something. We don't really know what Alan's going to do. That's why it's not going to be misrepresentation. Independence and objectivity, again, I understand completely why people would think it's B, because you're thinking Alan is now thinking of making a decision based on what the council said. But independence and objectivity is talking about you having actual facts to back up your decision. And this is not like a decision to buy and sell. This is something that has already taken place that Alan is thinking, okay, he needs to correct. So it's not his initial decision on investment. So it's not independence and objectivity. The subsection that is really important that this focuses on is knowledge of the law. And knowledge of the law, it talks about knowing the knowledge of the country law, not knowing that which one is stricter, the CFA standards or the country law or the local regulations. Knowledge of the law also talks about it's your responsibility. Yes, you need to seek your supervisor's advice, legal counsel advice. So this falls, if in particular, seeking legal counsel falls into the knowledge of the law subsection. So this is why, again, you need to understand each subsection and make sure you know, okay, even if it's doing like flashcards and making sure, okay, supervisor, legal counsel, that falls into knowledge of the law. Like the CFA guidance on the standards clearly states that. So well done for all those that chose A. And if some are still confused, I'm hoping we get to the end. If you have a question for this particular question, note it down towards the end, or even if it's not towards the end, if we don't get time, you send it through if you don't understand why it was within subsection A. But if you read back to the guidelines for the standards on the CFA text, it's very, very clear that this falls into knowledge of the law. So we spent a few minutes on this question. That was just question 1. I'm going to swiftly move on to question 2. Again, I'm sticking on the timer. You guys have 1 minute, 30 seconds. Read this question carefully. Take your time. Give it a guess. I want everybody to try and give it a chance. Like just throw in your answer, whatever you think it is. Just read slowly. Time is probably, I'm being tight with time right now for you guys, but because we only have 1 hour session, but time normally in the exam should not be an issue for people. So yeah, I'm getting some responses. This is great. People are very quick with their answers. That's amazing. Amazing. I'm getting a lot of A's. Great, great. Yes, you have like a minute to go. So just keep throwing them in. And it's great that everybody's, go great. A. No B's or C's yet, but A's. Okay, this is great. So we all seem to be A's for this question. So let's just hope it is A. That is the correct answer. Read it again, even if you think you know the answer. Check again, make sure, why are you not choosing B and C? Do you know why? That's also a great way to boost your confidence in the exam, because if you're very sure there's no question marks, that's great. You guys, I feel okay. Are we done? You have like 10 seconds to go and I haven't got any other responses yet. That's great. We have 100% A. So this one should take us less time to go through because everybody seems to be very confident in this one. Yes, we have, yes, A. So time, I think, is up and 100% A's. So well done, everybody. So I'm going to read the question again. In an effort to pump up the price of his holdings in Moosehead and Belfast Railroad Company, Steve Weinberg logs onto several investor chat rooms on the internet to start rumors that the company is about to expand its rail network in anticipation of receiving a large contract for shipping lumber. So which action, like Steve's actions violates which standard? Like everybody 100% A. So I'm going to go through reverse order again, since we all think it's A. Let's see, why is it not C? Is there anything talking about any conflict of interest here? I mean, C was an easy cross out because we don't even know who is. There's nothing about, apart from him working at Moosehead and Belfast Railroad Company and then going to a chat room and creating rumors. We don't know if he's conflicting with anything. So it's clearly, yes, 100%, you guys. It's not C. C is an easy one. And then B as well, duties to clients. As I said, we went through this. We don't even know who his clients are. We know who his employer is and we know what he's doing. So again, this was a great question that it was easy for you guys to cross out B and C. And as you all selected 100%, everybody here, very proud of you all. Congratulations. It is integrity of capital markets. Obviously, he's doing something that is trying to affect the market. So he's affecting the integrity of the capital market. He's falsely trying to boost prices in his favor. So this is definitely falls in affecting the integrity of the capital market. And within the integrity of the capital market, I think this one's going to be an easy for you guys as well. If we go through quickly, throw it in. What subsection are we talking about? Intentionally, and I'm answering this, I'm not saying some words because this is also supposed to be, yeah, great. Because you all got it right. And obviously, you know, it's, I mean, yes, 100%. Yes, you guys are on a roll. You're doing amazing this morning. So yes, that's it. Yeah, everybody threw in the correct answer. I didn't say this when I was explaining it. Yes, this is manipulation. Market manipulation, because he's manipulating the market to get something that will be in his favor. It has nothing to do with material non-public information. We don't know anything about any information apart from what company he works in and what he did. So absolutely amazing. 100% on question 2. I'm very happy everybody's getting more confident in it. So we're going to swiftly move on to question 3. You got 1 minute, 30 seconds, have a read. We're doing good with time. So guys, keep it up. I'm hoping we get to go through all the questions I have for you guys and you get to ask me questions. So have a read this one and do take your time with this one because this one is a bit of a, you need to know the subsections to actually answer this 100% correct. Well done. I'm getting feedback. I'm getting B's. I think these B's are, yeah, these B's must be to do with this question. Yes. Yeah, we have a minute to go. Read again. Make sure you understand. Yes. Come on. Read the question. We got B, A. Read it and understand. Okay, B is an A's. We got 1 C, yes. You have 30 seconds, throw in an answer, even if you're not too sure, give it a guess. We have all the options here. Yeah, this is what I like questions when we have all the options because that means we need to really discuss this and understand what is happening. Yeah, we have all the options. You have like 20 seconds, keep going. This is great. You guys are wide awake, ready for your level 2 exam a few days from now, hopefully. What? Wow, we have a lot of C's falling all of a sudden. So many C's are coming. C was shy at the beginning, but we got 2. Yeah, time, throw it in, time's up. Yep, that's my little clock. So well done for trying. I am going to read this question and then we're going to talk about what the options we have and why they are, which one is the correct answer. So John Miller is a mutual fund portfolio manager. The fund is focused on the global financial services sector. Wanda Spears is a private wealth manager in the same city as Miller and is a friend of Miller. At a local CFA Institute Society meeting, Spears mentions to Miller that her new client is an investor in Miller's fund. She states that the two of them now share a responsibility to this client. So the question I asked you is, who among the following is most likely bound by the CFA Institute standard duties to clients? Based on Mr. Spears' statement about her new client to Miller, who is an investor in Miller's fund. So who is bound by the duties to clients? And this is based on the fact that now Spears is telling Miller that they share the same responsibility for this client. So I have all the options. I am gonna go in reverse order again to go through this. Those that selected Spears and Miller are bound by duties to clients. The first thing I'm gonna ask you is, if somebody can be quick, who is Spears' client? Spears mentioned that he has a new client and is an investor in Miller's fund. So Spears clearly has that client. So if Spears is bound by this duty to the clients, we know that Spears is. And we're saying that the same client that Spears has this duty to is in Miller's fund, the fund that Miller manages. So Miller, who is Miller's client? Is the fund Miller's client or each individual client Miller's client? Did you guys understand that question? Can somebody tell me, is Miller's responsibility to the fund or is it to every single client inside? Well, the fund is every single client, but who? Okay, well done. Thank you, Issy. Thank you, Joshua. Thank you. Yes, thank you, Joshua. So this is great. So I think this is why C is not the correct answer. Like for Miller, yes, he's taking care of a fund that has a lot of people inside it, but his responsibility is the fund together as a whole, the team brought him the responsibility to manage their money. He doesn't particularly have to speak to any individual person within the fund. He refers to whoever brought him the fund, whoever's leading the fund. So that's why C is not the correct answer. And also by explaining C, obviously B would not be the correct answer because Miller is reporting to the fund and Spears are reporting to an individual. So this also falls under a subsection for duties to clients, which will be our follow-up questions as you guys now understand my pattern. So the answer is A. I hope this is clear because duties to clients, you have to understand who is your client. If it's a mutual fund, when it's a fund, you refer to the whole fund. You don't refer to every single person in the fund as your client. It's the fund collectively. So Spears has a fund, Miller has a fund to manage, and Spears has individual clients. So their responsibilities are not the same. So also the question says most likely. So this is where the grays are within CFA. You need to also pay attention that most likely is not like some of you might argue, yes, but that client is inside the fund, so he's also a client. No, you need to think, who is your actual client? Yes, that person falls under the umbrella in the fund, but your actual client is the fund. So the answer is A. Well done for all those that chose A. And I hope all those that didn't learn from this, because this is something that the CFA actually likes to throw at you, because this is, again, about knowing your subsections. So pay attention. So again, here, give it a go. Let me know which subsection was that referring to? Which subsection does this question fall within? Throw it in the chat, give it a guess, like look at the subsections. As I said, this standard is one of the most important ones with 5 subsections. Great, great. I've got yes, A, yes. Come on, just a few more people, give it a chance. Just look at the subsections, just quickly read them. Which one does this fall under? If you understand the subsections, I think by their titles, actually, you should know. So great, we have one E, we have a B now, together with the A's, that's great. So this will give us an opportunity to go through every single subsection. Okay, I have B, E, A, so I'll probably go through the ones that haven't been chosen first. Yes, A, great, great. Okay, so I'm gonna now look at these subsections. If we start with the ones that nobody chose, we have A, B, and E. So I'm gonna look at C and D. C, suitability, nobody chose C. So why do we all think it's not suitability? Because we're not told that he's making, suitability is making sure, okay, you're following what the client agreed that he wants to invest in. We don't even know what this fund wants to invest in, or the new client that Spears is talking about wants to invest in. So obviously it wouldn't be suitability because we don't have enough content in the case. So make sure, yeah, you guys are correct, it's not C. And then D, performance presentation. We don't know anything about the performance of the fund or how Spears is going to perform with this new client. In fact, Spears hasn't even done anything for this new client, so there's no performance to actually present. So that's why it's absolutely correct. Nobody chose D for us. So if I go now, I think I got E and B and then A. So E, preservation of confidentiality. I get why somebody chose this, because they're thinking, why is Spears talking to Miller saying that a client is now they're bound by the same responsibility? Yes, he's not really, though, revealing anything about this client. He just says his new client. In fact, we don't know the name of this client. We don't know who this client is. We don't know how much this client has invested with Spears or anything about this client. So there's no actual leak of confidential information. So that's why it wouldn't be E. If maybe Spears has said, oh, this so-so is my client and he's in your fund and he's invested so-so amount, that would definitely also put us at risk of this subsection. But because Spears intentionally just says new client, if you notice a lot in the professional world, people would just tell you their client wherever they work, but you don't know who this client is. Their client could be Bill Gates, their client could be the government. So it's okay to just mention it as your client as long as you don't delve into too much information. So it's not E. If we go to B, fair dealing, do we really have any information about how they're dealing with different clients in this case? We have no idea. Like Miller, we just know he's managing the fund. Spears, we just know he has a new client. We don't know how it's dealing with any of the clients. Like we don't know how either of them are dealing with their clients. So that's why it was not going to be B. And it's absolutely A. Well done, you guys. That's correct. This subsection is talking about A. Under loyalty to clients, prudence and care, that's where it tells you, okay, if you're a portfolio manager managing a fund, your loyalty is to that fund, not the individual clients inside the fund. So that's why, and Spears, because he's managing a particular individual, his loyalty is to that individual. So again, read your subsections, please make time to understand them because they're a lot, but it's actually, it's quite straightforward and intuitive to understand. So well done, guys. Answer is A. We're quite tight on time. We've got 15 minutes to go. I mean, I think I have a few more questions, but I want us to let's do this question because this always catches people out, and pay attention reading the question. The case is very short, but read the question carefully. You have 1 minute, 30 seconds, have a go, and let's see how we do. So let's go read it again. Again, it's making sure you understand the question. The case is short, but I want you to make sure, even if you've guessed, read again, because you still have a minute. Thank you. People are throwing in their answers. Well done. Well done. I have a C, I have an A. That's great. Keep throwing them in. You still have a minute. Read the question carefully. Make sure, why am I selecting this? Why is it not the other answer? So elimination, if you're very sure something has nothing, we have all A's and C's, no B's yet. Well done, guys. This is amazing. We're doing great. I hope we get to the end of these questions. I think I have 7. I can't remember. I think I have 5 or 6, 6 or 7 questions. Great. We have a B. We don't get to the end of the question. It's not the end of the world. You can do this. I have answers for you, and you're going to get the slides. So we have 30 seconds. I think maybe the next questions I'll give you less time, but this question is something I think you need to pay attention. We have all the options selected here. We have A, B, and C. So yes, we're going to spend a bit of time explaining this question. So, and then as you know, you have a follow-up question that will come. Yes, I have A's again. You got 10 seconds. Just throw it in, guess. Whatever it is, I am not tracking who's answering what. You should be checking your own answers. I'm just looking at the A's and B's. I have no idea who. Yep, time up. Well done, guys. That was great. So I'm going to read the case. Alfonso Mota is a research analyst with Tyson Investments. He works part-time as a mayor for his hometown, a position for which he receives compensation. Must Mota seek permission from Tyson to serve as mayor? So that's part of the case. And this case is coming from LM2, as I told you directly. They have a question at the end of the case, but that's not the question I'm asking you. The question I'm asking you is, Alfonso's role as mayor least likely violated which of the CFA standards? So when you see CFA say least likely, what helps me is, in the exam myself, is least likely. So what I do is I first of all, eliminate those that are clearly violations. The answer that's left is the correct answer, because that's least likely a violation. If we look at this, Alfonso has part-time activity outside of his employer, and he receives a compensation. So what Alfonso is doing, he's doing other duties that are also compensating him. So we don't really know too much detail. As I said, the case is very short. If we look at this in order of the answers, standard 1, professionalism. Is Alfonso likely violating professionalism? I mean, if I was to negate this, like, has he violated professionalism? Within the professionalism, again, we're going back to those subsections. Is there anything talking about Alfonso doing extra activities apart from his employer and compensation? Remember those subsections. Knowledge of the law was the first, and then it has misrepresentation. I think, yeah, I can't remember all the subsections in my head right now, but I don't remember anything about additional compensation. I don't remember anything about him doing extra activities and professionalism. Professionalism is just telling you how to uphold yourself, and like there was misconduct I remember was in professionalism. There's nothing that he's done that is misconduct, like cause of violation. So I don't know, would he be violating A? I mean, for A, I'll just leave it hanging because I don't see any of the subsections. That's a good way to, if you do B, look at that option B, duties to clients. So duty to clients has the one that starts with loyalty to your client, prudence and care, independence and objectivity. Like, is this gonna affect him performing to his client? If he's working elsewhere that is getting compensation, we haven't been given how much time he's spending in his mayor activities, but if it's substantial amount of time, it could affect his ability to perform well for his client. So these are all like, it's the most likely logical correct answer. It's not like written in stone. So CFA wants you to use intuition, because in real life, this is what will happen. If nothing is black and white, it's mostly gray things. So if he is spending substantial amount of time and it could conflict with his duties and the time that he's spending with his client's work, then this, like, it's likely to be a violation of his duties to clients. So for that reason, I would not choose B. Again, if I go to C, again, duties to your employer also goes, the first subsection is loyalty. Again, And also they ask you to disclose anything that could be conflicting. Additional compensation is a subsection in duties to employer. Like C, probably if you're doing the negation that I said, would be the first one that you're definitely sure he's most like he could violate duties to an employer. Although again, we don't know how much time he's spending as the mayor, but we know he's receiving extra compensation, which he should actually inform his employer or even ask for permission. So by looking at it like this negated thinking, he's most likely to have violated duties to employer and duties to his client. So he's least likely have violated professionalism. So that's why the answer would be A. It's a complicated answer. I understand you might have follow-up questions. Do write them in the chat if you think you have any questions to do with this. But if you understand it, our answer would be A. And it's always good to negate because you just have to use intuition as well to answer this. So if I move on to the answer, I would have a yeah. So this is a follow-up question for you guys to think, okay, the answer he did not, least likely answer was A, because he's least likely he's least likely violated professionalism. But what subsection would this fall under if we're thinking of duties to employer? Because this case is more about that. Let's see what you guys are throwing in. Yes, okay. I think I've already actually said the answer while I was explaining it. So it's great. Everybody's on board. Of course, yes. I mean, it's great. Everybody has B's. Keep throwing them in. Yeah, we have very few minutes left. I don't know if we'll probably get to do the next question, but probably that might be it for us. So that's great. Everybody has chosen B. And I understand, okay, responsibilities to supervisors obviously would not be it because we don't even know who his supervisor is, what his responsibility is. So I understand why nobody chose C. If you look at A is what I thought some might choose because they're just thinking, okay, he's doing yes. Someone had chosen it. Yes, I understand why you would think it would be A. Because he's actually doing something that is time consuming, that you should actually discuss this activity with your employer. So it could affect your loyalty to your employer. But because we're also told in this case, you always think of the strongest part that is obvious. If we weren't told about the additional compensation, A would be absolutely right here. But because we're told about these additional compensation, it's very clear. When CFA throws something to you that is very clear, so that's probably giving you a prompt of certainty for the answer, because the answers aren't always like 100%. Ethic questions are arguable, like you can argue them. If you're somebody that debates, you can have your cases 4 and above. So it's always the one that has the most points would win. Like with this, because we're told about this additional compensation, that's why you would choose B. It would fall under A. I agree with some people if we didn't know that he was getting any compensation, because all we know is his time, and his time would affect his loyalty, obviously, because if he's spending too much time in these mere activities, he won't be able to do his role. But because we're told about the additional compensation and we know it's a subsection, that's why this answer would be B. So let me see, we have 5 minutes actually only left now. The time flies, honestly. I have just this question. You guys, I'm going to give you a minute for this one, less than 1 minute, 30 seconds, a minute. You guys have a go. Let's do this question. I think you probably have maybe 1 or 2 more questions to do on your own, but let's do this question, read it. The case is very short as well. And then give it an attempt. I'm giving you guys 1 minute. You still got like 50 seconds to go. So give this question a try. I think it's worth doing this question. And the others you can do in your own time that I have for you. You get the slides. Thank you. I'm getting some responses already. You guys have 30 seconds. I have A, I have B. Great. Thank you, guys. Keep throwing in, and I'm going to give you another 30 seconds. Just throw in the answers. Let's see. I would love us to go through explaining the answer to this question. And probably, I think it's 2 more questions. I'm not sure. I did the slides a few days ago. So I think we have 7 questions altogether, but as you can see, I've been giving you 2 in 1, all your questions. So you have 10 seconds. I have all the options, which is great. Well done, guys. Amazing. We've got 5, 4, 3, throw it in, 2, time. Okay. I'm going to close my chat and stop looking at your options now. Let me read this quickly. Rather than lifting the ceiling for its universe from $250 million to $500 million, May and Associates extends its small cap universe to include a number of non-US companies. So we're being told about what a company has done, changing it's changing its unit ceiling, so from 250 to 500. We're talking about a company here. So my question I ask you is, May and Associates' action of extending small cap universe to include non-US companies violated which of the CFA standards? I have you guys have selected all the different question options. I mean, I have A, B's, and C's. So let me go in order. Professionalism, going back to those subsections, is there anywhere in professionalism that is telling us about actions taken, changing investment directions? Because this is a change in direction, obviously, in their investment. And May and Associates have changed something. They decided to extend and include something. Do any of the subsections in professionalism mention that? Because I'm going to be quick here because we don't have time. No, none of the subsections. So A is definitely not the right answer. If I go on to, I'm going to run away and make it obvious to you, C, investment analysis, recommendations, and actions. Is there any action that we're being told that, is there any action that we're being told that May and Associates are taking right now? Do we have any action that they're taking? We don't know really. We know that they've decided to extend small cap universe to non-US. If you think about the subsections for investment, analysis, recommendations, and actions, it does not talk about when we change. It just looks about we need to have reasonable independence and reasonable basis for doing things. We need to be diligent in doing things, but it doesn't really tell us on changes. What happens when we do changes? Is there any guidance with the subsections talking about changes that a company makes or an investment, a portfolio manager makes? Not really. So for that reason, that's why C would not be the answer. B is the answer here because under duties to clients, there is parts of it that says, no, sorry, the answer, my mistake again. Whenever I run out of time, I get to give you guys the wrong answer, sorry. C is the correct answer because there's communications to clients within the subsections. My apologies, I did this last time again. I should really work on my time pressure. Do not do what I just did. C is the answer because within the subsections, there's communication to clients. So any changes that you make to your investment portfolio or to your client's portfolio, you need to communicate it to them before you do it. You don't do it and then let them know. You need to communicate this to them. And May and Associates is not communicating this to them. They haven't communicated. And on the duties to clients, the reason why is, again, it's all about the subsections. It hasn't done anything that violates preservation of the confidentiality, prudence and care, in all the different 5 subsections have not been violated. So that's why it's not A or B. And well done to everybody that chose C. Apologies for that. Apologies for that little mishap for me there. I think I do time pressure gets to me. When I know I'm running out of time, I love to be on time, but I've been told I have few extra minutes. So the answer is C. If anybody is confused, the answer is C because it falls under the subsection of communication to clients. May and Associates needs to communicate this. So because they haven't communicated, they just decided to take an action, they have violated a CFA standard. So I hope that is clear, yeah? You agree? I have a question, yes. I have a follow-up question by Shirley, but it hasn't checked suitability under, we don't know if it hasn't checked suitability, Shirley, because we don't know if this is not suitable for the clients because we have an objective. It might be actually suitable for the clients, that's why they did it. But even if it's suitable for the clients, they cannot do it without letting the clients know. So we don't know if it is suitable for them. So I have been told, yes, great news. We have 10 minutes extra, which means you should be able to finish it. So Shirley, I hope that answers your questions because it might check their suitability. We don't know because we haven't been told. If we were told that this was not suitable, then we know that it hasn't checked that. But we don't know too much with that. So yes, the correct answer is C. Yeah, thank you, Shirley. I'm glad you now understand that. So to save time, since we have these extra time yeah, okay. I've already said this. You guys know what subsection it is because I've mentioned it. And I did that intentionally because we were running out of time. So for that reason, I'm going to move on to our next question straight ahead. Yes, question 6. Have a go. Again, just a minute for this one, because I would love to answer any questions you have. I think after this, I have one more question, and I think 10 minutes is sufficient for us to actually meet that. So have a read. The case is a bit longer here, but the question is quite straight to the point, and give it a go. You have a minute, about 40 seconds now in the timer. Yes, great. I have one response. do take your time to read the case. I know I'm giving you less time to do it, but give it a go as well. Great. I have B, I have C. Great. I've got only a few responses for this one, so maybe I might have to give you guys an extension. We've got 30 seconds to go. Yes, I have more. Come on. Keep them coming. Give it a guess. Nobody's going to penalize you. I have no idea who's guessing what. I don't know what your scores are right now, and I basically don't care. You guys just need to do this for yourself. Great. I have A as well, so I have all the options. That's amazing, guys. Great. You got 10 seconds to go. Throw in whatever it is, because we want to do this question and the next, since now we've been privileged enough to get 10 extra. Yep, good. 10 extra minutes. We have to use these minutes. Throw it in. I'm going to start discussing, but I will read the case again before we do the question. Carl Fergamon, a research analyst who follows producing office equipment, has been recommending purchase of Kincaid Printing because of its innovative new line of copiers. After his initial report on the company, Fergamon's wife inherits from a distant relative $3 million of Kincaid stock. He has been asked to write a follow-up report on Kincaid. Ooh, wow. Okay, so things have changed. He's been managing this particular stock, and now all of a sudden his wife has inherited a substantial amount. $3 million is a lot. So this is the question I ask you guys. Does Carl writing the report violate any of the CFA Institute standards? So I have all the options, which is great. So you guys are, everybody's choosing different things. So if we look at this in order, by him giving a report, now that his wife owns $3 million of this stock, when in doubt, the CFA always says, when in doubt, always disclose. And if you think there's anything that could affect, like it could be perceived, even if it doesn't affect it, it could be perceived that you have some favoritism or it's going to benefit you as a portfolio manager, you should disclose it, or if you can, eliminate yourself from that. So people that chose A, it's not the correct answer, because he definitely would be violating something by writing, because he should either inform his employer that he has, now his wife has it, because, you know, legally in most of the laws around the world, a wife and a husband are just one unit. So it's like he has the 3 million, because if she benefits from this, he likely will by default get something from it. So A is not the correct answer, because he should tell his employer about this, or he should actually pull himself out and recommend somebody else to write this report, because he feels like maybe he would not be working, he wouldn't be objective in his decision. So A is not the correct answer. If we look at B, a few people, I mean, a number of people actually chose B. He violates duties to the client. So we're told that he's a research analyst. He's following some office equipment and some printed material to do with this stock that his wife has now gained from. We don't really know who his clients are. Is he really, by writing the report, if he writes the report, we're just checking, if he writes the report, does he violate anything? By writing the report, would he be violating duties to clients? Is this question or case really talking about duties to clients? We don't really know anything about his clients. Again, if they're really blank about it in the case, they haven't really said who his clients are, just telling us about people's actions. Let's not assume too much. Yes, there's a tendency, yes, I know in the other questions we've assumed some things when they're great, but it's very clear here we don't know who the clients are. So we don't know what he's done wrong. We don't even know if his wife is a client. She could be, she could not be. We don't know. We don't know if he's a client as well. If he's managing something, he's involved in this particular stock that we're talking about. We have no idea. So for that reason, B is not the correct answer. So by default now we know that, okay, I have a question. Yes, I'm going to go to the question before. Okay, not the initial report, but it's a follow-up. Yes, okay, yeah, Shirley, you're correct. I'm trying to read people's questions. But he discloses conflict in the report. No, okay. Yeah, Olumide, yeah, you're right. You guys are all on the right track. So the answer is C. It's conflicts of interest. It's conflicting because his wife now owns it. So basically, in most laws around the world, it's like he now has 3 million in this stock and he's about to write a report on it. So obviously he has a lot to gain or lose depending on what he writes on the report. So he might not be very objective in writing the report. So it's a violation of the CFA standards, and it falls under conflicts of interest because he has a significant amount. Yes, we don't know how big this stock is. This stock could be a multi-billion-dollar one. Maybe his stake is very little, but it does not matter if we're not too sure. Like I said, you choose the most correct answer with CFA. Even if this is like 0.05% of the stock, he still has a stake in the stock. So he should let the employer know, or he should actually remove himself from doing this follow-up report, because things have changed. When he first wrote the report, his wife had not inherited this, but now she has. So that's why the answer would be definitely C. I'm having some, okay. If you could take a second look at the first question, okay. Okay, Chima, I see your question, and I'll see if we can do that. Possibly we will. Okay, so that's great. And we're good. We've been given our extra 10 minutes. We've only got 3 more minutes of them. So let's, it's clear that it's C. I think I haven't had any questions on this question. And as you know, I would have my follow-up question, but because we only have 3 minutes, the subsection, I mean, give you guys 10 seconds. Let's just see if I get 3 responses is enough for me. What subsection does this fall under? I think that's enough for me. Yeah, great. I have 2, 1 more. Okay, great. 3 is enough for me, and I have even more than 3. So yes, it's clearly disclosure of conflicts. I tried my very best when explaining it, not to mention the word disclose. So he needs to disclose this. Obviously, there's a conflict of interest here, definitely. So that's why this is not. So my final question, I mean, I know somebody said we should go back to question 1. Let me see. I think I'd rather answer that person's question now. I have one more question for you guys, but I think you'll do that in your own time because we only have 2 minutes. Chima is asking me to go back to question 1. We were not told what happened after the General Counsel's advice. Yes. Question 1, if I go back to it, we were not told in the case. You don't have to be told some things. We were not told intentionally what he did after the General Counsel, but you are asked, okay, if based on what the General Counsel has told him to do, if he does follow what the General Counsel, like he's getting advice by General Counsel by knowledge of the law. Okay, I'm trying to answer Chima's question, but I think I have another one in the chat asking me, okay, no, I'm getting people's responses. You were not told, yes, how he came about this violation, but if you're told in the question that he's violated something, if for you to violate something, okay, if he's asking General Counsel, we already see in likelihood for Alan to be swayed towards doing something. And we're told that the General Counsel has given him this assurance that if they can't prove that he was involved in this wrongdoing, like he's okay. So it's given Alan some confidence. If Alan decides not to do anything, I mean, it's a bit gray, and I understand why you're asking this, Chima. I'm creating these questions and I'm not working with the CFA Institute in any way or form. So they would be much clearer in the question, but because it's asking you by elimination, you're looking at it and thinking, okay, what was violated? If you look at this, if he does, after the actions that were given to him, you're saying why you're thinking it's A or B. It could be A, yes. The question will be clearer at the CFA, but the reason why the majority actually chose the right answer would be is because we can see that he's already trying to follow the knowledge of the law. So if you know these subsections, you would know, okay, this is definitely to do with a subsection. You can't say no, absolutely, like in my point of view, looking at it, but it's argumentable what you were saying. So don't worry too much with this. If you chose A and you were thinking B, don't be too hard on yourself because the question will be much clearer at the CFA exam, clearer than I've made them because I'm just creating these questions from cases. If you read LM2, you would know that all these cases are coming directly from LM2. That's where I'm getting them from. And I hope, yeah. So I hope that makes things a bit clearer for you, Chima. And because my 10 minutes is additional time, it's over. I'm just going to quickly end this. You guys will have one more question to do without me. That's question 7. But if I move on, when you get the slides, do have a look at this slide that I've made for you guys, which is my top 10 tips for ethics. It's really important. Use a CFA text for ethics. Take your time. LM2 is your friend. LM3 is application, which you can actually use with what Chima asked me. Now, they'll have questions that the CFA has created and answers and explanations for those answers. That's why I didn't do LM3 because it's all there for you. It's what we've just done now, but it's there for you to read. And also another thing I would say is top tip number 6, they're videos. Watch those videos. They're 10 to 15 minutes long and they explain guidance and these subsections. If you're somebody that can learn on the go or learns better by listening audio, use them. So basically, I think our time is up. It's been great, spending this morning with you guys. I hope this has really helped you guys. And I wish you all the best. And hopefully it'll be level 3 next. You'll be there. You're almost there. It's been a pleasure. If you have any questions, do follow up, send questions through the society or find me on LinkedIn. And the next presenter is actually already here waiting for you guys. And it's Mohammed Buba. You're going to do alternatives, as Bukola told you, and make the most of it. Participate, ask questions, answer questions. This is a boot camp. This is to help you. Best of luck. You can do it. And I'm going to hand over and stop sharing now to you, Mohammed. Have a great session and bye from me.
Thank you, Mariam. Always nice to hear you on the bootcamp. Well-delivered presentation. Thank you, Mariam. My name is Mohammed Buba, as earlier introduced by Mariam. I'll be taking your alternative investment in the next 1 hour. So let's do it. Let me share my screen. So can you see my screen? Just say yes in the chat box and that will be sufficient. Okay, great. So we'll be taking alternative investment in the next 1 hour. It's always a pleasure to be here. I want to congratulate you first. Being a level 2 means you know what it is to be a CFA candidate and you have an experience in the exams. So I want to congratulate you. It's a very, very good achievement. And I think 1 down, 2 to go. And I think it's very doable, very, very doable. So I'll be glad to take you through and see how we can discuss alternative investments to see how we can give you the key highlights on things you really need to look out for in this reading. So we're starting with what we call commodities. If you look at my slide, you see it's just a brief intro on what commodities is. It's simply an alternative investment that derives value from change in price. That is the key thing. It doesn't give you cash flow like bonds or stocks. It doesn't pay you dividends, nor does it pay you coupon. But where you get your return comes from the change in price. And that change in price is largely driven by what? Demand and supply. So if you have more commodities on the market, more supply than demand, the price will go down. When you have more demand than supply, the price will go up. And we are very familiar with this. And even the inflation in the country right now tells us that we have less commodities and more money pursuing those commodities. So that is what alternative investment is. So if you had bought some of those commodities 5, 6 months, now you're going to be selling them at a higher price. Also, it's a very good source of inflation because commodity is part of the inflation basket. And also it gives you diversification benefit because there is a low correlation between how commodities move and how other traditional asset class moves. So this is just a high level. You need to know this. I know you must have learned this from level 1, but just to recap that and put that up at the back of your mind because it's very, very important. So looking at the first LOS, commodity and commodity derivatives. Why commodity derivatives? You ask yourself. It's because commodities are mostly traded in the futures market. Most of the transactions take place in the futures market. That's why we need to understand the futures market. So we've talked about the fact that it's driven by change in price and demand and supply. How do you now analyze that change in price? You use a fundamental value analysis. A fundamental value analysis is just trying to say, you look at what you think will be the available supply of that commodity and what you think would be the demand for that commodity, right? So you can look at, for commodities like energy, you can look at what is the EIA is talking about. That's the Energy Information Administration. What are they talking about in terms of energy? What is the NNPC telling you about the stock of crude oil in Nigeria? Do we have enough stock? No, we don't have enough stock. Are there going to be strikes like we have recently? People going, is the Association of Tankers going to go on strike? That will affect the flow of that commodity. So if you look at all this and it tells you what the price will be in the future. Quantitative value analysis is trying to say, if you look at the historic trend of different commodities, you expect the supply to be XYZ, but sometimes it's not always like that. Like in the case of commodities like maize, for example, you know that if you plant XYZ quantity of maize in a soil that has this fertility, you expect to get a certain yield. But if you have a modified seed, that alters that quantitative analysis. So it's not perfect and it's not stationary. The next important thing is the sectors. We have different commodity sectors. The L stand, I use this LIPS EG to explain it. The L stands for livestock. I stands for, sorry. We have livestock, we have precious metals, we have soft crops, which are cottons, we have energy, we have grains, right? And we also have industries, industrial commodities such as copper and the likes. So this LIPS EG tells you about these sectors. And there are different factors that drive these different sectors. Like livestock, weather, grains also is affected by weather, because if the weather is bad, the food that the livestock are going to feed is going to be affected. Precious metals are not affected by weather. Energy is affected by weather, because if the weather is very hot, there will be need. The weather is very cold, there will be need to use gas to use your ACs, right? So there are different factors that drive different commodity sectors. And from the question, you're able to tell, because they have certain peculiarities. The commodity life cycle tries to tell us that every commodity sector has different life cycle. The livestock, for example, it takes, the more the size of the livestock, the more time it takes, right? And also we have, like for energy, you have different life cycle. You have when you extract the oil, you store the oil, and you also now consume the oil, right? And also on the energy, you have within a certain sector, you also have different futures. Like in the case of energy, the difference between gasoline and our normal PMS is that for gas, once it's extracted, it can be consumed. But for the PMS, before you can consume it, it needs to be refined, stored, before it can be consumed. So these are the things you need to look out for. Commodity valuation is simply talking about the concept of contango and backwardation. Contango is when the futures price is greater than the spot price, right? While backwardation is the reverse, when the spot price is greater than the futures price. There's also an important concept of the theory of the different theories that affect the futures market. What makes a futures market to be in either contango or backwardation. So these theories are normal backwardation, theories of insurance, which says that farmers or those who produce commodities will always be willing to sell their commodity at a lower price in the future, trying to create an incentive for those who will buy it, so that in the future, since the futures price convert to the spot price, those guys who take the opposite position will make money, but the farmers or the producers will have predictable revenue in the future. So that's the theory of insurance, always saying that farmers and producers will always be willing to sell at a lower price in the future. So the market will always be in backwardation. The hedging tries to say that the level of hedging between speculators and hedgers will always determine what the futures price will be. And also storage, theory of storage tries to look at the impact of storage itself, because if the more a commodity needs to be stored and there's a high price of storage, then the futures price will always be high. Convenience yield is the need for the commodity now. If there's a high need for that commodity today, then the price will be higher today than in the future. Returns, we'll talk about them in some of the questions we're going to solve. The price return is the change in the spot price. The roll return is the change in the difference between when you're rolling out the position, when you're rolling from a futures price to a new futures price. So that change that will occur will determine the roll return. Why collateral is because you're going into a derivative transaction. You need to place like the nominal value. You need to look at the alternative return that you're going to get. So if you're going into a futures contract with a 10 million value, right? Since you're not giving that money now, you need to look at what is the alternative return that I can get, which is always the risk-free rate. So swaps, you do that more in derivatives, but it's just trying to say you're exchanging different returns. And we also have indexes, which you also do that in portfolio management in more details. So looking at these high level explanations I want us to attempt some questions that will give light to what I've just explained. So let's look at the first two questions and put your answers in the chat box. Okay, I can see the answers coming. We have your answers coming. That's good. Okay, keep them coming. Question 1 and 2, keep them coming so that we take them together. Question 1 and 2. Okay, so we'll look at the answers. If you, okay, good. I can see your responses. Good. So the first one is when discussing unique factors driving price changes, the three commodity pricing factors, weather, GDP, and wealth of emerging market, would most likely have the smallest impact on the price of A, gold, B, cotton, and C, copper. So if you look at this question, it's actually very tricky. The GDP, for example, most times affects most of the sectors because it affects the economic conditions of the economy. So it means it has direct and indirect impact on those commodities, the demand and supply. Because if the economy is doing well, it means people will be demanding more. And if the economy is it's not doing well, people have less purchasing power. So the GDP has somewhat of an impact in all the commodity sectors. But if you look at this, there's an interesting commodity here, which is the gold, for example. The gold is like a safe haven safe haven asset, right? So in this case, it has less effect by the GDP. Even if the GDP is not doing well, it's even the time people want to run to safety, right? So the impact on GDP is less compared to cotton and copper, right? And also for a copper, which is like an industrial commodity sector, it's actually impacted by the GDP because if the economy is doing well, people will buy, quotations and businesses will do well. So in this case, the answer is actually A because gold is not affected by weather and is least likely affected by GDP, right? Copper is affected by GDP and the wealth of nations, though not affected by weather, while cotton is affected by both weather, GDP, and emerging markets. So for question 1 is actually A. Question 2, sorry, I think I have an issue with my. Okay, good. So for question 2, sorry. I'm having issues with navigating the screen. Just a minute, let me fix that. Let me share the screen again. Okay. So that's for question 1. We've answered that. The answer is A. For question 2, the answer is B, which is weather. Because energy production is often located in coastal zones, it can be susceptible to severe weather conditions such as hurricanes. In addition, energy demand is seasonal, with gasoline consumption rising in summer months and fuel consumption increasing in cold weather. I think I talked about this earlier on. So energy is actually affected by weather. So she's least likely correct concerning the weather, because she said they are not affected by weather, right? While energy is actually affected by weather. So you guys did well, saw the answers. Let's keep them coming. So the next question, question 3. So let's go for 3 and 4, so we'll take the answers together. Yeah. Okay, you can see them coming. CC, keep them coming. Okay, great. I think this is good. I can see most of the answers are CC. So let's look at them. The Apex Fund has access to storage facilities and uses these facilities in attempt to capitalize on mispricing opportunities. The A is hedger, B is speculator, C is arbitrager. So the answer is actually C. So an arbitrager is somebody that takes opportunity of mispricing, right? When you see a mispricing, it's always when you have same commodity but pricing differently. It means there's an arbitrage there, there's a mispricing, which is a risk-less profit, right? So it's the same commodity, but priced differently, either based on different locations or different factors that are driving them. So it's actually arbitrage. And for this to be able to be an arbitrage, the pitfall here in an exam is for you to look at this concept, storage facilities. For an arbitrator to be able to take advantage of the mispricing, he needs to have a place to store the commodity. I mean, he needs to take delivery. So this is very key. Please take note. If it doesn't have a storage facility and he doesn't take delivery, arbitrager will not be the best answer, right? So the next one is, can you identify a factor that affects the valuation of financial assets like stocks, bonds, but does not affect valuation of commodity? I think this is simple and straight. We've talked about commodities are stored, they have transportation costs, but they do not generate cash flow. Rather, their value comes from what? Change in price. So that is it. The answer is C and also C. I hope that's clear. Okay. The next question, let's make progress. You look at the exhibit and let's answer 5, 6. I can see some answers already coming. You guys are good. Let's keep them coming. Let's keep them coming. Try to participate, try to attempt these questions. This is the place you can practice on the exam. There'll be no room for mistakes. So this is the right time for you to attempt these questions. Let's look at them together. Let's see where we make the mistakes, and this is the platform for us to get those corrections, right? So attempt, don't stay on the fence, give it a try, and that will help you understand it. Thank you. So So let's have more. Okay, thank you, thank you, thank you. Keep them coming, keep them coming. Okay, so number 5 is trying to say which futures market in this exhibit is in backwardation. Okay, backwardation is simply when you have the futures price less than the spot price, or the spot price greater than the futures price, either way. So if you look at this gold price, this is the near contract. Another concept you need to understand is the near contract in terms of what we call the calendar spread. The calendar spread is the difference between same commodity futures contract but on different dates. So the near date to expiration, the nearest one is assumed to be like the spot price. That's the near contract term. While the further contract term is assumed to be the futures price. So in this case, if we take the July contract to be the spot price, so for us to be in backwardation, we need to look at the situation whereby the July contracts are higher than the September and the December contracts, right? So if you look at this, you see here the July contract, this is a flat market. There is no backwardation, there is no contango, it's flat all through. The coffee, this is the spot price. This futures price is higher, and this futures price is higher. So this is a contango. Why in this case, this is the spot price. Why the futures price is less, the futures price is less. So this is a backwardation. So gasoline is actually the answer C. For the same, which commodities roll return will most likely be positive? So the simple concept is if you have a contango, you have a negative roll yield, and if you have a backwardation, you have a positive roll yield. And the reason is this: if you have a futures price and a spot price, or two futures prices in this case, now when you want to close this position here, right, you will have to sell this futures contract because you're long here, so you have to sell it at the near-term price, this price, right? That is the July contract. If you have to roll over this in September, if you look at this, what you're going to get here, because you might have bought it maybe in March, right? What you're going to get here is higher than what you're going to roll over with. So you're going to get this amount and you're going to buy at a lower amount. So that spread is positive. You're going to close this position at this amount, and that same contract, you roll it over at a lower amount. So this is a positive spread. But in this case, you're going to sell at this, you're going to close at this position, and you're going to buy that same contract at a higher price. So if you close your position, you have this, you need to even look for money to add to be able to maintain the same amount of contract. So here you have a negative roll yield. So the which one will be positive? So if once it's in backwardation, in this case, it will be positive. So it's actually, that's the line. So that's what it is. Okay, so let's attempt question 7. Okay, great. Let's keep them coming. Questions will help us to understand things much better. No problem, Mary. We take yours already. It's fine. Shima, Joseph, thank you. Keep them coming, Okoyemi. Let's keep them coming. Okay, good. Let's attempt. Keep them coming. Let's have more answers. Okay, so let's find out. Keep them coming while we find out. So the Bank Coffee report, this is a report. The coffee market had a global harvest. It means there's a lot of supply that was greater than expected. But despite that, the large harvest, coffee's futures trading activity is balanced between producers and consumers. So it means the activity of both the producers and consumers in the futures market, whether they are both hedging their positions, it's assumed to be balanced. So there's no more producer hedging, nor are there more consumers. Their balance is equal. This balance control is not expected to change over the next year. So this trading activity is expected to be continuous, right? So if this is the theory of what we call the hedging pressure hypothesis. And that theory says that if you have more producers hedging than consumers, then you have evapotration. If you have producers less than consumers, you have a contango, right? Then if you have both equals to, you have a flat market. So they're telling us based on this question that it's going to be balanced, right? So it means we're expected to have a flat market. So that's what the hedging pressure hypothesis is expected to be. But if you look at the coffee market here, the price between this near contract and the further contract is in what? Is in contango, right? Because the near contract is less than the further contract. So it means this market is already in contango. And this tells us that it means the hedging pressure hypothesis did not affect the coffee market, because if it did, this price would have been just like the gold price. It would have been flat. There will be no contango or backwardation. I hope that is clear. So this also the coffee market is in contango. So what could possibly lead it to be in contango? And remember, the insurance theory is always what? Normal backwardation. So this is out because the insurance theory always tells us that the market has to be in normal backwardation. Producers need to hedge more, right, than consumers. So we only left with what we call the theory of storage. And how does that apply? Because the futures price is equals to the spot price plus storage minus convenience yield, just for simplicity, right? So this spot price is always raised by 1 plus R, but for simplicity, let's just keep it at this. So if in this case, the only reason why the futures price was high, despite the same hedging and the same hedging activity between the producers and consumers, is simply because we had a higher storage and the convenience yield was also low. So this is the reason why the theory of storage is actually the answer. I hope that helps. So let's attempt this. Number 8. Number 8, waiting for your answers. I know it's a bit tricky, but let's attempt. Don't stay on the fence. Let's give it a try, and we'll understand it better. Thank you, Sullivan. Let's have more. Yeah, let's have them come in. Okay, because of time, I will just run through this one. So what is simply happening here is that you have a futures contract. Bokar was trying to tell Musa about the total return concept. And first of all, you need to understand the formula is simply the price return plus the roll return plus the collateral return, right? You can keep your answers coming, no worries, right? So the price return is simply the change in spot prices or the change in 2 near contract prices. That's the change. So the change between these first price at which you bought and this one. So you look at the difference. You bought at this and the price is now this. So is there again? Yeah, you do 877 divide by 865 minus 1 will give you that return, right? So the roll return is simply saying you're rolling over this position. You have this position, you're rolling it over, and the futures price is this. So if you look at this, this is the near contract term, and you're rolling over the further contract term. So this is actually higher than this. So this impliedly, if you know it logically, if the futures price is greater than the spot price, you already have what to call what? A contango. And the roll yield is what? Is negative for a contango, right? So if it's negative for a contango, it means that you're going to sell at this and you buy at this, right? So for you to do the maths, it's you're getting this, that is 877 divided by this to give you a negative return, right? Then for this, which is also tricky, this is an annualized return. So for you to do it, they make it so simple. You just take the 0.6, divide it by 12, and how many months do you have? 3. So you have your figure. If you add this, it will give you, I believe, this. So let's see. Yeah, so this is the answer, 0.85. Yeah, these are, maybe I'll share the slides. It's also an important, it's just a swap question. So maybe when I share the slide again, because we're running out of time actually. So that's for commodities. So we're going to be running through what to call the real estate now. This is just an example of documentation. So real estate. Okay, somebody says the answer, which one? This is the answer. Okay. Are you okay? Okay. So let's make progress. Time is of the essence. So now real estate is an alternative investment that focuses on investment in properties that generates income. This is important through rents, also capital gain through change in value of properties. So it has both an equity future and a bond future. And also it helps to give return, diversification benefits. It can be invested as in a debt form or in an equity form, and it can have a direct and indirect exposure, and also it could be private or public. So this is a high level of real estate. So this is what I've talked about. You have private equity, direct ownership, public equity, indirect ownership claim. It could be an equity investment firm. Location of real estate is very important. It helps to enhance the value. Also, we have characteristics like heterogeneity and also lump sum, illiquidity, high transaction. These are very, very important for you to know at a high level. Then it can also be commercial. Commercial simply means it's income producing. So if you have a house that you rent out simply for rental, it's what we call residential but commercial, right? Which could be multifamily. You also have hospitals and care facilities. These are based on use, while you have office, industries, and warehouses. So all these are different real estate sectors. Risk factors that drive real estate are business conditions, the lead time to develop a commodity, excess supply, availability of capital, and the cost of capital. Inflation is also has an impact. Demographic, are you expecting more population? What's the population demography? Is it people getting households formation, or do we have more babies than adults? Liquidity also is a concern. Also, there are environmental concerns. And also leverage is an important factor because most of the financing are done with debt. So these are highlights, high-level explanations. We'll do some questions to see if we actually understand some of these things. The lease structure is also important. If you have a tenant, if you have a lease structure where you take all the costs, then your operating expenses will be high. If it's taken by the landlord, then your operating expenses will be low. And also, there are some real estate that require more operating expenses and more maintenance, right? Like the malls, like the hotels, you have high operating expenses because there are a lot of bills involved, right? And it's borne by the tenants, right? Also, population growth, I've talked about this. Employment, consumer spending also affects properties, right? Consumer spending will affect from the business angle, while demographic will affect from the retail angle. So these are different properties and they're affected by different risk factors. So let's attempt some questions that will give color to it. So this should be pretty okay. So let's have more answers. Okay, thank you, Tunji, Chima. Let's keep them coming. Can do 1 and 2 be better so that we just look at them together. Okay, for question 1, we're saying benefits of private equity real estate investments. So we're looking at an investment in private equity. And we're looking at investment in real estate where you're privately having an equity stake in real estate, right? So includes the owner's ability to attain diversification benefits, to earn current income, and to achieve tax benefits, right? So we are asking if this is actually correct. or if this is incorrect because tax benefits do not apply to tax-exempt entities, or it's incorrect because private real estate is highly correlated with stocks. So let me start with C, real estate, private real estate, whether it's especially the private ones, not the public ones, the private ones are not correlated with stocks. The publicly traded real estates are partially correlated with stocks and can be like the REITs and the REITs. But for private real estate, it's not. So this is not it. The second one is incorrect because tax benefits do not apply to tax-exempt entities. Private, the investment in equity real estate investment gives you tax benefits because you look at depreciation. That helps to reduce your tax benefits, right? So the answer is actually A. So for the next one, the answer is actually A as well. And the simple reason is this. Yeah, this is a public company. Yeah, it's a public company, but the investment it's issuing, they're giving a loan to this real estate investment company, right? So Rodrigo obtains the following information from Rich Life Loan Property 1. So they're giving us loan on this property. So the loan itself is not a publicly traded loan, right? It's a private debt because it's not publicly traded. We cannot take this loan. We cannot get this loan contract in the market, right? So it's not it's not a mortgage-backed security a loan. So it's a private loan. So it's a private real estate debt. So it's just a debt negotiation between the public company and our own company, represented by Rodriguez. So this is not a real estate equity because it's not an equity investment, it's a debt investment. Why it's not a public traded real estate investment? Because it's not REITs, and also it's not a public it's not an MBS, mortgage-backed security, so it cannot be publicly traded real estate debts. So let's take one question here. So we can take 3, 4, 5. I think it's pretty straightforward. You can try to attempt them. Okay, so let's see what the answer is. So what you need to know about correlation is that all the real estate investments have low correlation with traditional investments, except the publicly traded real estate investments. They have more correlation compared to the private ones. So in this case, the private equity real estate, since it's a private, will have low correlation with stocks and bonds. So this is actually the answer. So which property most likely to be affected by import and export activity and high operating expenses? So import and export activities are mostly impacted by those real estates that are in the industrial end, like warehouse, right? This is actually impacted by the industrial, it's mostly import and export mostly affects the industrial sectors, right? Like the warehouse. And also high operating expenses, like I talked about, hotels and shopping centers, they have more operating expense because they have more cost, day-to-day running cost. So this is actually the answer. The real estate index that leads to our allocation to private equity real estate investment and smoother returns. Yeah, this is property index. This is just an index. It could be using any of this. So that's the pitfall here. So transaction based is this uses actual transaction, while appraisal use estimated transactions. So once you're doing an estimate, it means they are not actual transactions. So you might be missing the volatility in the day-to-day. Maybe you just pick for Q1 and also Q2, right? So whatever happens between, you don't know. So this is smoothing, it's understating the volatility and you're smoothing the returns. So this is B, B, and C, yeah. So the next aspect for real estate is the publicly traded real estates. So the publicly traded real estates are majorly the REOC and the REITs. So like I said, REITs are investments in real estates where you purchase shares, and these shares, the value of those shares are traded in the exchange, available in the exchange, and the funds pooled are used to invest in income-producing real estates. And also, for you to be able to qualify as REITs, you must make sure that at least 75% of what you're earning comes from real estate, and you're allocating also about 75% in your investment. Income must come, and also your investment must be at this level. And another thing, you must be able to distribute at least 90% of the income to investors. So you benefit from tax. They don't tax this. The only tax that comes is when they pay individual investors their profits, it can be taxed. But at the company level, there is no tax. So it also has a tax benefit, right? So this is REITs. REO is when you invest in a company that buys and sells real estate. So it's not actually distributing 90%. It's not focused on only income producing. It can get a real estate, develop it, and sell. So capital gain is a huge part of the profit. And also, it's an ordinary company. It must not have the structure of REITs. So this is a high-level explanation of publicly traded securities. So let's see if we can have some questions. So this is a question concerning how we value the REITs. The REITs are valued through net asset value per share, which is a valuation methodology for them. And also we have the multiple one, which is the AFFO and the FFO. So let's attempt this quickly. Okay, that's good. I see the answers are coming. We're good for the NAVPS, which is the net asset value per share. Is simply the net asset value divided by the shareholding. And if you look at these, the adjustments have been made. Some questions will come without this adjustment. So if they don't give you the growth rates in this, like in this, they give you the past, the last 12 months, and they tell you there's a growth rate for 5%, you grow this by 5%, but it's been done here. And also this is the book value. Is the property cost. We don't use the book value, we use the property value. This is the cap rate to get the valuation. So the cap rate is when you get the NOI divided by the cap rate to give you the value of this. So you can also use an NOI concept, which is the net operating income. So if this is given, we're good. So you just take the net asset value and divide it by this. But if it's not given, you have to do some of those little adjustments. So let's attempt this one. Okay, let's just run through this because of time. So this is saying that what is the reasoning for preferring adjusted funds from operations as a measure of economic income? So the AFFO is simply making sure that you have what we call the real cash earnings. So it adjusts for maintenance and also non-cash rents, right? So, but despite that, it takes care of this and gives you the expected actual earnings of cash. It's also subject to a lot of error and variation because the cost of maintenance of a property might not be easily determined year in, year out. It might be different for different years. So actually getting that might be very, very subjective and there might be errors. You might estimate it to be lower or even higher. So AFFO actually takes care of these non-cash rents and maintenances, but also that figure can be varied in different periods. So it actually has this shortcoming of error in variation. So this is also an interesting question. So what is in these three valuation factors, these factors, which one is not most likely classified as a relative valuation? So if you look at this capitalization rate, like I told you earlier, if you want to do an NAVP, if you want to use the rental income. So if you have an NOI is simply the gross income less all operating expenses that relate to the real estate, right? So divided by, they will give you an interest rate minus a growth rate, or they give you what we call a cap rate. So divided by the cap rate. So this actually gives you the value. So this is simply a valuation method, not a relative value method, right? So cash flow variability, the FFO talks about the funds from operations. This is simply what, from a net income perspective, you adjust only to get what we call funds from operations, and it talks only mostly about the cash flows. While this year-end estimate funds from operations and adjusted funds are simply relative value methods. There are two key relative value methods. This is an input in relative valuation, while these are the key methods of relative valuation. So factor A will not be classified as part of it. So let's make progress. So this is an important slide. This is what we talked about earlier. So I just want to talk about what it means to be overvalued and undervalued. So if you calculate an NAVPS, that becomes, which is simply the market value of asset minus the market value of liability divided by number of shares. Or if you use the NOI concept, gross rental income minus estimated all these expenses that are related to the asset, then you divide it by the cap rate to give you the value. So once you get that value becomes what we call the intrinsic value. If the shares in the market is greater than this value, then it means the shares is trading at a premium. It means it's overvalued. If it's less, it means it's actually undervalued and it's trading at a discount. That's what I want to point out there. So in that light, let's attempt this question. So let's have your answers on this. Is it overvalued? Is it A? Is it B? Is it C? To take some calculation actually, but just let's try it. Okay, maybe. Okay, let's just run through it. So if you're familiar with the dividend discount model, you know that the value of a stock is simply the D1 divided by the R minus G, right? So if you look at this, the D1 is already this. If you divide it by the R minus G, which is the cost of equity as R, and the different growth is this, so that will give you a value. And if you compare that value with what the price is today, it will tell you whether it's overvalued or undervalued. Likewise, if you want to get the value using the multiple, you have an industry multiple of this 19. All you do is you multiply it with the AFFO of this. So 19 times this. That will give you the value based on the AFFO. So if you do this, which is done here, you'll see that this will give you an intrinsic value of 70. This is the intrinsic value because this is what you calculated based on the fundamentals. But since 70 is greater than the share price is actually undervalued given this DDM model. Given the AFFO model, if you look at it, the multiple is 19. If you divide it by this, it will give you 57. Then it means that the share price in this regard, which is greater, it's overvalued. So that is for the relative valuation model for publicly traded securities. So I'll just quickly run through hedge fund strategies quickly. I know we are actually running out of time. So what the hedge fund simply is just a mutual fund, but Richmond mutual fund, where you have what to call investors putting their money into a pool, and this pool is invested in different strategies. That's what a hedge fund is, and the strategies are what we're going to be talking about today. So, like I said, they are not regulated. It's a blind pool, and also the NFE, and also they can invest in anything they want. It's a flexible mandate. So these are the characteristics of these hedge funds. They are not regulated, flexible mandate. They have large universe. They can invest in anything. Their styles are aggressive, so they are always active. Okay, somebody say, why not D1? Yeah, it's D1, but some of the questions, they will tell you that is the current dividend. So if it's not the current dividend given, if it's the past dividend, you actually grow it, right? It's a valid question. So if what is given is D0, then you grow it to D1. But if you say it's a current dividend already, and we're talking of that year, so you don't have to grow it. So that's a valid question. So this is the major category of the real estate hedge fund strategies. We have equity-driven strategies, we have event-driven strategies, you have relative value, you have opportunistic, you have specialist, you have multi-manager. So these are the broad categories, and each of them, what you need to know at a high level is for equity, you are always trying to take advantage of what happens in the equities market. You're either going long position on stocks you feel that will go up, that are undervalued, and short position in stocks that you feel are overvalued, right? So here you have a long bias. Dedicated short bias, you're simply focusing on taking short positions, right? You believe that the market is going to go down, so you're taking short positions. Equity market neutral is your hedge neutrally. So you are hedged from the market. Whether the market goes up or down, you only make money based on the stocks you've selected. If they go up and they go down, you make money. So you don't, whatever happens to the stock market, you are neutral to that market, but you make money from the individual stocks that you've selected. Event-driven is focused more on events at the company level, like merger, distressed securities that will create value. So that's event-driven. Relative value is where there's a mispricing, either due to credit quality or due to, in terms of fixed income, credit quality, like investment grade and non-investment grade, right? Convertible bond arbitrage is the same company, but their bonds are cheaper than their equities, so you can take an arbitrage opportunity. Opportunistic is looking at a global investment, looking at whether you're buying an index or you're buying an investment in a country. So you look at the macroeconomic variables, inflation, interest rates, currency, and all that, right? Managed futures is you're only taking positions based on directions and opportunities in the futures market related to the index. Specialist strategies, you're only trying to trade volatility. You believe that the implied volatility is actually lower than the actual volatility, so you trade on that and you make money. Reinsurance strategies is also you're transferring risk, so you believe that the risk that has been priced in is actually lower, you buy it and you make money. Multiple strategy is simply you have a fund of funds, which we've talked about, where you have a fund floated to buy, to invest in different hedge funds. So you have diversification, but you have higher fees. While multi-strategy is just one fund manager investing in all these strategies. So it's in one house, so it has actually high operation costs, and it has also tactical decision making that it can make. That's the advantage. So there's just one picture here that if I share with you, you can also look at it to tell you more about each of these strategies and the benefits in them. So it's very important. I will share the slide with you. It's a one-pager. It tells you when there's more leverage. It tells you when there's a risk. It tells you the return of these strategies. It tells you which economic condition it's better for these strategies. And it tells you whether there's a diversification benefit or not. For leverage, the more hedge a position, the lower the return. Hence, you need to take more leverage to make return. The more risky an investment, the less leverage you need to take. So that's because of time. I think we're going to stop here. And if you have any questions, let me take them before I hand over to Puki. Any questions?
Hello, sir.
Hello.
Yeah, sorry, my name is Mary from Sokoto. How does the tax exemption advantage to private equity?
Okay, when you invest,
yes.
Okay, when you invest in when they say private equity, is not even if it's the private equity in terms of looking at it from an investment vehicle. But here in real estate, when we say private equity, is like me buying a house, for example, right? Me buying different properties, right? So I put a depreciation on those properties that reduce my taxable income, right? And also I defer sales. I don't sell immediately, so and also I don't realize taxes. You understand?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's it's not even from a private equity fund perspective, which is a fund where you have the LP and the GP. Also, because there are also different tax considerations anyway. But because it takes time for you to realize gains and losses over time, you don't pay those taxes. Unlike companies that, unlike other investments that are not real estate, where depreciation values are not taken into consideration. So somebody talked about appraisal-based and transaction-based. Appraisal-based, okay, let's just go through this slide that can do that, justice to that. Appraisal-based is simply estimates, right? You're making estimates into what the price of of the real estate will be, right? It's not based on actual transactions. You're just estimating. For every quarter, the NCREIF, which is a body, looks at and it's not done on a daily basis. So it means in that case, if it's not done on a daily basis, it means you have different prices of that real estate, movement in real estate that is not captured. For example, if it's a daily pricing like the stocks, you can see the stock can move. The stock price can move from day one, can move in the next 1 month, go down, go up. But this is a public information where you have in the stock market. For appraisal, the body that appraises, which is the estimate, in Q1 will tell us the value is, let's say, 100 million, right? And tells maybe after 3 months, based on economic conditions and what is happening, the value is now 95 or is 110. So don't be surprised if it's actually there's a purchase, buy and sell taking place in this real estate space. It could be possible that this real estate must have reached 120 or even go as low as 50. So this volatility is not captured by appraisal. So that's why we said is understating the risks of this transaction. And once you understand the risks, the Sharpe ratio is always high. So that's what we call it, it's a smoothed return. I don't know if that helps.
Okay, that's why the transaction base doesn't have that volatility, because it's taking the
transaction base. The same property is bought today at 100. After 1 month, so this is what actually happened. So you get the true volatility of that real estate. Why the value? So property A might be maybe a better property, is sold at 10 million. It's not in a good location, will reduce the value.
All right. Mohammed, thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. It looks like we've lost the connection with Mohammed, but again, our time is up. Thank you so much for joining us today. Tomorrow at 12 o'clock, we'll start with quantitative methods. That'll be from 12 to 2. Then at 2 to 3, we'll be having derivatives. We look forward to seeing you all tomorrow for another revision bootcamp. Do have a blessed day ahead. Enjoy your day.